Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Don't curse, speak English.
Armstrong.
Virtuous society.
Armstrong.
I dare you to listen.
Hey, turn it up. Hey. Armstrong. Get on the right side. Armstrong.
Elevate your mind.
Armstrong.
I'm Armstrong Williams on the right side.
Armstrong.
Yo, man, it's your boy K.O. And you're tuned into the most conservative of our brothers.
Armstrong.
The Armstrong Williams Show. Please give me a break. Grow up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Armstrong Williams Show. The President's State of the Union was, to my pleasant surprise, not partisan, vitriol, but to my unpleasant lack of surprise, a full-on liberal call to action. I noticed that there was comparatively little applause or enthusiasm because I was there for a State of the Union. Sort of like the lack of enthusiasm for the president around the country as he was reelected by just a 51% majority. I actually think the president is out of ideas. His speech was typical Obama rhetoric. Extended quote from an actually good speech delivered by an actually good president, fetishizing the middle class. Forget about the lower class and the upper class and the other class. Romanticizing groups or collectives. Startling threats of unilateral executive action, and above all, complete denial of reality about government benefit spending. He was sort of rehashing not only his old ideas, but liberal ideas that were old decades ago. He wants to raise the minimum wage, or at least chain it to inflation. I can think of few ideas worse for job creation than this. The minimum wage, in my opinion, increases job turnover. It discourages part-time work, discourages fringe benefits, increase inflationary pressure, and encourage hiring illegal immigrants. I'm going to say this, and I'm glad Logan is joining us, and I'm going to bring his mic up in a minute. I'm just going to say it. I wanted to say this for such a long time. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the Armstrong Williams Show. Liberals really need to make peace with business. They can't have their secularist utopia and still have thriving job creation. It's one or the other. Business create jobs, nothing else does. You either help business or you hurt jobs. And if nobody has jobs, then you can't afford anything else. The loudest and most emotional part of the night was about gun control. Bringing human props with him, the president said that gun violence victims deserve a vote. But of course this is theatrics. There is no bill on victims, and the only thing to vote on is unconstitutionally restricting our rights. Does the president not realize that he was not reelected on gun control? He was reelected, said almost nothing at all about guns, and there is no mandate here, and the Democratic Party would be wise to pocket veto the president's proposals. And did you see Harry Reid's tweets? He accidentally blurted out his opposition to assault weapons ban, so too might many other Democrats find themselves caught between loyalty to the president and common sense. And this is where I really want to get Logan in on the conversation, because he's much more knowledgeable than I am on this subject. I know a little bit. He knows much more. He wants more spending. 29 programs, in fact. But he says it won't, no, let me quote him correctly, it shouldn't cost a dime. That must mean he wants to raise taxes. So much for the fiscal cliff deal. The consensus on the Hill is that they are done with taxes, at least until, well, after the three crises, which are sequestration, continuing resolution, and debt ceiling. All tax bills on the House side have been essentially tabled for now. And the president knows this, but the president speaks as if he hadn't just raised taxes on the wealthy and, in the White House, own words, imposed the most progressive tax code in decades. Now, Logan, he wants to chase the rich out of our country some more. There goes investment in the economy. There goes entrepreneurship. There goes charitable donations. His logic is scary, Logan. It's pretty scary.
Armstrong, what's really scary is that if you look at Einstein's definition of insanity, and he says if you try something once and it doesn't work, and you keep trying it, expecting for a different result, that's the definition of insanity. President Obama has tried stimulus at least 3 times over the last 4 years, and it has not worked.
Well, for some reason, someone has convinced them that it has worked, Logan.
Well, you know, I find it very interesting because the logic of spending money that you don't have does not make sense to me. Now, admittedly, I don't have a PhD and a Nobel Prize in economics, the way some advocates of deficit spending do. But I think most Americans would agree with me that if you spend money that you don't have, it has to come from someplace. Somebody has to lend it to you, or you have to go out and get it. And in America, if our government is spending money that it doesn't take in through the normal tax situation, it either has to borrow the money, and where does that borrowed money come from?
Taxpayers.
It comes from the private sector. And if it doesn't borrow the money, it has to raise taxes. And where does that come from? It comes from the private sector. And we all know that the private sector spends money much more efficiently than the public sector. So by spending money that you don't have, by borrowing and further taxation, because it's less efficient spending, tends to, in my judgment, make the economy weaker, not stronger.
But I don't see how a guy as bright as he is, who's already been president for 4 years, surrounded by some pretty good minds, can totally miss the boat on this. I just can't reconcile it.
Well, I can't understand it either. I mean, maybe it's wishful thinking. I think there's another element to it, and that element is that there's an element of redistribution involved. And what the president's saying is maybe we should not care whether we are increasing the size of our economy and the average income of all Americans. Maybe what we need to do is to make the gap between the rich and the poor smaller. And we're all better off living in a society where the average income is lower, but the distribution of income between the rich and poor is much less. So if you look at the societies that are like that, you know, we have one about 90 miles from where I am in Florida called Cuba. You know, they're disasters. If you look at places that have tried that, it just hasn't worked very well. You know, France just raised its, or is about to raise, or trying to raise its income tax rate on wealthy people to 75%. In other words, 75% of everything you make over about $750,000 goes to the French government if you're French. So what happens? A number of their wealthiest citizens and major entrepreneurs and actors have decided that they're going to give up their French citizenship and move to other countries. And that, by the way, if politicians don't think that taxes don't impact successful entrepreneurs, I suggest that they go to the West Palm Beach Airport. And the West Palm Beach Airport, you look at the flights during the wintertime of people who are tax refugees from high-tax northern states. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. You know, half the discussion of people on those flights is how they came to Florida, because Florida is a place where taxes are low, and they're fleeing taxes from high-tax states like New York, Maryland, Connecticut, Massachusetts. It's just very interesting. Taxes do have an impact. High taxes have an impact on the behavior of your entrepreneur class.
Hold that point. Logan Delany is our guest. Our phone lines are open, 1-866-620-6620. We're streaming live, www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. We'll be back.
Armstrong Williams returns.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. Just like the Affordable Care Act seeks to ensure people with public or private coverage can find high-quality health care, AAA911health.com offers consumers you with access to better information, quality care, and big-time savings on your health care. Yes, big time. AAA911health.com offers a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's right. If AAA911health.com haven't saved you money, guess what? They will pay you back in full your membership with no questions asked. Just tell them Armstrong Williams sent you to AAA911health.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. What does it mean to be conservative? Freedom of speech, freedom of free enterprise, freedom of assembly, less government, less taxes. As a matter of fact, a flat tax. Everyone should pay proportional tax. It doesn't matter whether you make $100 million or $10,000. Everyone should pay their 10%. Everyone should have something at stake in this American economy. I'm Armstrong Williams, expressing what we mean by conservative traditional value.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams with an opportunity to own a piece of paradise in Nassau, Bahamas. Spectacular land prices, 8,000 square feet, 20,000 square feet lot, affordable prices, hilltop properties with views of the magnificent sea. Just call 242-677-3120 or 3121 or go to info@rightsidewire.com and leave your information.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Have you seen a more activist second term ever outlined by a president?
Well, I think the president's put a lot of things forward. The question is, what's realistic and what's really going to get done? I think the gun legislation that he's talking about, or proposals, I think are probably dead in the water, and it's more rhetoric than really getting anything done. But we'll see. I think the president talking about stimulus programs, further investment. It's very hard to get. It's going to be very hard for the president to get a majority or to get the Republicans on Capitol Hill to vote in favor of spending more stimulus money. He's got things that he's got to do first before he can get the Republicans to talk about spending more money, such as trying to fix the sequestration cuts that are supposed to take place next month. Once he gets those things done, he may have something to talk about and to propose. But he assumed that those things are going to get done in his speech, and that the Republicans are going to just roll over and let him spend additional money. I don't think that's going to be the case. I would be surprised if that's the case.
John Shiner, who's joining us. John, what did you think about Mark Rubio's speech last night?
Hello?
John, what did you think about Mark Rubio's speech last night?
Hold on just a second. Say that again, please.
Logan, yes. Logan, what did you think about... can you hear us, John?
Yes, now I can hear you just fine.
What did you think about Mark Rubio's speech last night in response to the president?
Well, I thought that he tried his best, that he was really nervous, and that he probably didn't connect with the middle class, which is what he wanted to do. What do you think?
Now he's asking me the question, Logan. I can tell you where this is going. Logan.
I didn't hear the speech, but what I heard about the speech is that John is right. He did not connect.
Why would they have Mark Rubio deliver the response? Because he's Hispanic?
Well, I have to tell you that several of the shows really sort of cut him short because they were more interested in what was going on in California than in what Rubio had to say.
Were you interested in what was going on in California?
I personally was not interested, but I'm just saying that some of the networks made that decision for me.
I think they weren't they also trying to see if, as a candidate or a potential candidate, he had the right stuff?
I don't understand why Time Magazine set him up by putting him on the cover. They say that then the cover is the savior of the Republican Party, Logan and John.
Well, I have to look at two things with respect to last night's. I think, first of all, trying to follow the president in a rebuttal when you're just hearing his speech is a very, very tough act to follow because you really don't have time to really sort of put together your thoughts. And
oh, my goodness, he had the speech 24 hours in advance. Come on.
Well, all I'm saying, Armstrong, I think it's a tough thing to try to rebut the president of the United States.
Politicians have done it well, following every State of the Union.
I think it's a tough. I think it's very seldom does anybody remember what the opposite party said, and the person making a rebuttal or addressing the president's speech. The president's speech is more like political theater more than a debate in a campaign. And how do you debate political theater? How do you respond to it?
With substance and personality and connecting.
Yeah, and you never get a second chance at a first impression.
Yeah, they put Jindal up a couple of years ago, and he made a fool out of himself. At least that was the media's impression. They take a couple of young guys who are relatively inexperienced, and they put them in the lion's den. I would not take my potential stars if I were in the Republican Party and put them in the lion's den until they're really ready for prime time. But having said that, I think Rubio is an interesting guy. He's an interesting politician. His strength may not be addressing or butting the president's State of the Union message, but I think you have to look at his, what he's proposing. And I think one of the unfortunate things about modern politics is that very often good leaders are not necessarily the best communicators, not necessarily the best speakers. Our greatest president was George Washington, and he was probably the worst speaker, the worst orator of any president that we've had, bar none. George Washington, when he gave a speech, nobody could hear him. He mumbled, but he had the absolute respect of the American Republic at the time. So I wouldn't judge somebody's leadership ability necessarily on political theater in a...
That's a good point. That is a very good point. So, John, what do we do to create these jobs that the president was talking about last night? It was jobs. Most of the speech was focused in general terms on the economy and job creation. Obama also called for raising the federal minimum wage to $9 an hour, and he unveiled a proposal to spur growth of manufacturing jobs.
So you want to know how we create jobs in this country?
Will the president plan create jobs?
No. Absolutely not.
What will it take to create these jobs?
They're going to have to lower taxes for corporations in this country, even though they don't want to. They're going to have to cut the red tape for corporations that want to provide jobs to people, and they're going to have to lower the taxes, or the corporations will not hire.
To add one thing to that, which I agree with that as part of the strategy, but I think another part of the strategy is that we have to recognize that creating jobs per se is not what we really want to do. Jobs, you can create jobs by giving people shovels and having them dig ditches, and then filling the ditches back up, and they've created no value. The real essential element is to create jobs that are productive, to create jobs that add value to our society and are not just a redistribution of income from one group to another, and you do it through make-work type jobs. And the best way to do that, okay, and the best way to do that is to let the private sector, which is an expert at creating jobs, let the private sector, give the private sector incentives to do what it does best, which is business. Okay, and now let me suggest a couple of things. One thing that the president suggested was that we raise the minimum wage. I have never in my life heard of anything that makes less sense if you want to create jobs than to raise the minimum wage. Because when you make something more expensive, people buy less of it. That's the law of supply and demand. It's almost as immutable as the law of gravity. So if you expect to raise the minimum wage from $7.25 to $9, you're not going to create jobs. You're going to destroy jobs.
Yeah, you're going to kill jobs.
Okay, so, if the president would have made more sense if he said, we are going to cut the minimum wage, or especially for young people, because they're the unemployed, black youth, for example, urban black youth, the unemployment rate is close to 50%. Why not cut the wage to 50%, to $5 an hour? Put those young black men to work. They'd be more likely to get a job at $5 an hour. They're unemployed at $7.25 an hour. Maybe they'd get a job at $5 an hour. They will learn some skills. They will learn. They will add productivity. Hopefully, if they're good, which we hope they become good after training, And after working for a while, they'll get raises. And if they come really good, they'll make more than $9 an hour because their boss will want to keep them. He'll say, hey, this high school dropout who's not worth $7.25, but he may be worth $5. I'll take a risk on him. I'll hire him at $5. I'm not going to hire him at $7.25. And let's put that guy to work. And, you know, and we as a society say, why not? Because he's not going to be working anyway. He's going to be on welfare, or he's going to be under his parents, you know, being paid by his parents, you know, with an allowance. Let's get him trained and working and being productive at $5 an hour rather than being unemployed at $7.25 an hour or $9 an hour.
That is true. I mean, if you're going to pay someone less who's minimum wage, you have a tendency to hire more. But if you keep escalating the price, it's going to lower the demand on the product. It's just common sense. John, you have a new book out, which we're going to talk to you about later in the week. Turn Right at the Dancing and Cow, America and Uganda. We look forward to that. Thank you for joining us, John.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Life is full of unexpected changes. Everyone has potential to do wrong. And when they choose to do it, contact the Bucksell Group for your private investigation needs. TheBucksellGroup.com or by phone at 202-243-9746. Whether there's an instance of a cheating spouse, child custody, process service, or security, don't continue suspecting. Get closure so that you can move on with your life. Visit TheBucksellGroup.com now or call 202-243-9746. If you think it's happening, it probably is.
To travelers along the road of life who have fallen asleep at the wheel, to the many who woke up in time to avert disaster and get back on the righteous path. For the ones who crashed and survived and now adhere vigilantly to a virtuous and righteous path. Finally, Armstrong Williams' much-anticipated new book, Reawakening Virtues, gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Ken Leon Check, was that you, the person I was watching in the chambers last night, jumping up and down on every statement the president made at his State of the Union? Ken, the cat's got your tongue?
I'm here. I'm here live and well.
Did you hear my question?
I did not.
I said, were you the one on the floor last night during the President's State of the Union who kept jumping up and down at everything he said?
Unfortunately, no. I unlike Ted Nugent, I did not get an invitation to last night's State of the Union to be the date of a congressman or senator.
Can someone help us understand why this Navy SEAL Chris Kyle and his friend were killed? Why do you guys go quiet? I mean, when we ask the question, you just go silent.
Because I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's just so sad. And
well, explain to us what happened. Ken,
I think that's one of those tragedies of in our world and in life is dealing with the problem of evil, dealing with mental illness, and it's a big question. I don't know. I don't know why he was killed, and frankly, I don't know why Obama didn't say anything about it in the State of the Union either. I thought he was going to. I'm not going to really knock him on that one, but it's certainly something people are very upset about.
What is it about the Christopher Dorner story that captivated the media? What was so unusual about this story?
Well, I can jump on that one again.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Logan.
One of the things I thought was very interesting about that story is it showed that gun control is not the answer. Here's a guy who was an L.A. policeman, and he basically went berserk. Now, he was a fired L.A. policeman, but he, he was trained. He should have known how to use weapons, which he did know how to use weapons. He should have known when to use them. He knows the danger. At some point, somebody in the system thought he was sane enough to be a police officer, and they missed it.
I don't think they missed it. I mean, I wanted Ken to get into his complaints against the department, that they turned on him, and he felt he had no choice. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with his nonsense, but, I mean, how many other police officers are powder cakes, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is I think the media, anytime you get an opportunity the media gets an opportunity to report on police brutality, or on some sort of malfeasance by police officers or a police department, those stories are huge. And I think it's because we still have a little bit of the almost rooting for the bad guy in us to a certain extent in this country, that we see the police not as people helping us, but a lot of people see the police as an oppressive agent sort of the state to keep them down. And whether that's, the sort of libertarian in the Ivy League think tank, or the person who is tired of being profiled. There's a lot of negative feelings about the police. So media likes to pick up on these issues. The thing about this particular case is it's a real clear one. The guy really snapped and went wrong. And there's no sort of black and white in that regard. There's no question that what he did was wrong. The interesting stuff, though, are his complaints about the department turning against him. His complaints about corruption. There's not much about that being reported on. Instead, it's sort of the rogue, crazy police officer. It's him versus the world. So I think that's the kind of thing that really does captivate the media attention.
It really bothered me, the Chuck Hagel hearings. Cruz bothered me. Lindsey Graham, my senator, bothered me. I was appreciative that John McCain did vote in the end to vote him out of committee, and he said that Cruz was unfair and questioning his patriotism. I don't understand why the GOP would just turn so on Hagel, Ken. I just didn't get it.
You know, this is one of those issues where I'm having a hard time understanding it as well. I've heard the argument made that the problem is that Hagel is such a non-interventionist that if he's in charge of the Defense Department, we will not get involved in protecting, frankly, the rights of those in the world who may need us to help them, but also we won't be active in.
Are you saying that he won't be going? Are you saying he won't be meddling in other people's business?
I think that's sort of what the argument is.
What's the problem with that, Logan?
But I think the argument is also that he won't protect U.S. interests with enough strength. I don't know where that comes from, really. I mean, I've seen the op-eds, but and look, I think Ted Cruz is a fantastic senator, an amazing lawyer, and a good guy. And I didn't understand much of his opposition either. I don't get it. Particularly, you would have thought Hagel was like an arch enemy Democrat, not a Republican. I didn't get it. I wish someone could help me understand better.
Maybe Logan can.
All I can say is that there's a presumption that the person that the president appoints, who's going to be doing the president's bidding, is somebody who's vetted by the president, and he's going to follow the president's policy. Somebody in his cabinet. Now, I think we can sort of disagree with that person on policy, but I think the Constitution gives the Senate the right of advice and consent. And my understanding of what that means is that's a fairly low standard. I mean, it's not like you are hiring the guy. It's like if this guy is really bad, he shouldn't be there. But basically, the presumption is that if the president has chosen somebody, you should let the president have his team. And so I come at it from that point of view. I mean, there are all kinds of objections that I would personally have to Hagel based on his foreign policy, based on things that he said, based on his lack of Defense Department experience and the way he's responded to some of the questions at the hearing. So I think you could make a good argument that if you were doing the hiring, he would not be the guy you would hire. But the question is, do you want to preempt the president's choice?
I just think the president wanted a Republican that he knew that could divide the Republican Party, and he's done a good job at that. It just showed the silliness of the party. Ken?
Yeah, that's a little sad. I mean, it does look like Republicans eat their own young after this whole fiasco. But I am with Logan, and that's something that really bothers me about modern politics is that the senators act. Senators often can develop a little bit of an ego after being around the Senate for a while, and they all act like they're mini presidents trying to hire the guy for the job. That's not it. I mean, really, I think consent basically means say yes, except for in the rarest of circumstances. And I've argued this about Supreme Court justices with whom I very much disagree, like Sotomayor, who I never would have chosen, but who I thought very much should have and eventually did become Supreme Court justice. I think the same happens here. It's just he got our number. He picked someone that we would fight against, and I think the average American is wondering what is wrong with the Republican Party in the Senate. I mean, I don't think they get it one bit because if we have trouble understanding it, imagine those who aren't enmeshed in the political process. I bet I think Obama won some points with this one. He got his guy, and he divided the Republican Party, or at least showed how divided it is.
I find it interesting that Justice Scalia, Thomas, and Alito were not in attendance last night. Justice Scalia hasn't been in almost 16 years, and I know Justice Thomas won't be returning. But Justice Scalia was out about the same time last night, giving a speech, something to do with the National Public Radio, where Nina Totenberg was the moderator, and he said that he finds the State of the Union to be child play. He thinks it's embarrassing what it has become. Your comments, Logan?
Well, I said it in the earlier half hour that I thought that the State of the Union message was political theater. And, when we go back to George Washington gave a written State of the Union message. And most presidents until Roosevelt gave written State of the Union messages to Congress. In many respects, I think that practice of a written State of the Union message is something that the president should do, and it would be taken more seriously, and it wouldn't be political.
Hold that point. We're coming back. Ken Leon, check. Logan Delany, our phone lines are open. Info at rightsidewire.com, www.lightstream.com/Armstrong Williams, 1-866-620-6620.
Armstrong Williams returns in a moment.
Hi, this is Armstrong Williams. Just like the Affordable Care Act seeks to ensure people with public or private coverage can find high-quality health care, AAA911health.com offers consumers with access to better information, quality care, and big-time savings on your health care. Yes, big time. AAA911health.com offers a 90-day money-back guarantee. That's right. If AAA911health.com haven't saved you money, guess what? They will pay you back in full your membership with no questions asked. Just tell them Armstrong Williams sent you to AAA911health.com.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
America must change course if we hope to survive and save the American dream for our children and grandchildren. How do we fix Social Security and Medicare? How do we cut government spending? How do we reform health care? How do we simplify the tax code? The Heritage Foundation has a bold plan that tackles these tough problems using common sense solutions that leave partisan politics on the sidelines. Find out how we can save the American dream at savingthedream.org, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Join the millions of Americans who pursue one of our country's finest traditions, from hunting to sport shooting. Since 1871, the NRA has grown as a service organization involved in all aspects of shooting sports and is a proud defender of the Bill of Rights. Join today to begin taking advantage of exclusive membership offers and discounts, including up to $25,000 in insurance coverage. Contact the NRA today. Call 1-800-672-3888 or visit nra.org.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Miss Paulette, it's always good to hear from you. You have a comment for our guest. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, Miss Paulette, go ahead.
Yes, my comment is, well, one is kind of in a question form. Okay, we're talking about bothering Medicare. Okay, tell me why rich people need Medicare. They got the money to pay their hospital bills and things like that, and I believe that it's for people that are disabled or after 62, 65 you can receive Medicare. But, okay, even though I paid into the system for Medicare and my Social Security, I probably won't need Medicare because I automatically have insurance because my husband is retired military, and I'm going to always be insured because I've been married to him long enough. That's one thing. The other thing is $5 an hour is not a livable wage. It's just not. Now, $7 an hour, maybe that person that's homeless or they could take that. But I doubt very seriously anybody could live off of $5 an hour. That is not a livable wage at all. You make a criminal, you make people frustrated and crazy giving them $5 an hour. But I'm like this. Some money and no money is better than nothing. But just think, what would happen to a man? First off, you've degraded his entire being, and why he's unemployed, I don't know what happened, but the state of our country is in a shambles. But I just want those two questions answered.
Hold there. Let's start with Ken. Ken?
You know, I think the one I'll hit the first is Medicare, and the fact is medical care is so expensive, even for wealthy Americans, that the system has been created that wealthy Americans pay into the Medicare and Social Security fund while they're working. Up to, I think it's $101,000, $115,000 a year.
No, Medicare is paid through your entire salary.
Medicare
$1 million.
Okay. Yeah,
it's paid through $1 million.
So Medicare, there's no cap on. So I mean, I think in my opinion, the answer is why do they get it? Because they pay for it. I don't think it's a great system, but I think it's a benefit that everyone pays for, and frankly, that's doesn't matter how much you make. You've got wealthy people who are in retirement, set up to have a portion of their medical bills paid for by Medicare, and I'll stop and let Logan add more because I've obviously made that mistake in thinking that there was the cap on it, like Social Security. And there's not. So I mean, you could pay huge amounts of tax, way more than you'd ever actually get back, is what it sounds like.
I think you hit the nail on the head, is that you made an agreement with people when they were first going into the workforce that if they paid, they would get it. And to change that deal because somebody has been successful, when they're 65, and say, oh, because you're successful, we're not going to give it to you, there's a certain degree of unfairness. That's point A. Point B is that we do have a system for poor people, a welfare system called Medicaid, who, if they can't afford health care, they can go on Medicaid. That was intended to be a welfare system. Medicare was intended to be like a health insurance program where all Americans were forced to participate, and to say, well, after 40 years you've participated, and now because you're successful, we're not going to give it to you. There is a certain amount of unfairness about it. Do you want to address the minimum wage issue, Ken, or shall I?
Logan, we'll start with you.
Go for it, and then I'll follow up.
I think the intent.
Miss Paulette, Miss Paulette, thank you, caller. You can just listen off the line because there's a lot of noise in the background. Go ahead, Logan.
Yeah, I think the issue of the $5 minimum wage is that it's not intended to be a livable wage. It's intended to get somebody in the workforce and contributing, getting a job, and becoming more productive. I mean, very few people who are on minimum wage, even today at $7.25, are supporting a family. Most of them are young people without families. There are a few indigent people who make that. But the key is to get people into the workforce, get them trained, make them productive. And once they become productive, history shows that productive people get raises and will end up making significantly more than the minimum wage.
Yeah, I'm going to just echo that. I agree entirely that the minimum wage is not a livable wage, but the fact is it's not supposed to be. It's just that baseline amount that the government sets as the baseline amount for getting what someone should be paid when they're entering into the workforce. And I don't think I'd like the idea of an economy where we decide what a livable wage is, and the government says that that's what every company has to pay. Because I think that just will lead to pretty incredible inefficiency and companies not being able to operate properly. On the other hand, I think it's really important for companies to be ethical in the wages that they pay people, and that they should definitely pay fair wages, and that if you're an investor in a company, you should consider those things, because companies, I think you can do well by doing good, as it were.
Why do you think the president is so obsessed with taxes? And so obsessed, I mean, he's already taxed the wealthy. Why is this? What is in his history and background, Logan, that make him just loathe the wealth class?
Well, you can recall that right before the 2008 election, the president was being interviewed, and the interviewer, I think it was Schiffer, was it, who was interviewing him, but I may be wrong on that, asked the president, he said, it's been shown that raising taxes on the wealthy don't bring in additional income. Okay? And he said, if it doesn't bring in additional income, do you still want to do it? And the president said yes. He wasn't the president at that time, but he said yes because it's the right thing to do. And I have to tell you that when you take it into that context, the president, for some reason, wants to be punitive to people who are successful. He wants to take income that they've earned, and take it away from them. Now, why? There's something in his background, and we could psychoanalyze the president, look at the history. I mean, I think his mother and father were very left-wing. Maybe he grew up in that, where he thinks that even if you are very productive and you contribute a lot to society, you shouldn't benefit from it. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, that's not the American way. When will he finally get a reality check that he's a lame duck president, Ken?
I don't think for a while. I think he sees this as his opportunity to build his legacy, and particularly with regard to taxes. I mean, look, Republicans and Democrats use tax policy as their playground to achieve whatever domestic policy goals that they happen to believe in. And right now, those particular domestic policy goals of the Democratic Party, and particularly of President Obama, are about what they would call fairness. And in order to achieve what they would call fairness, they are going to redistribute wealth. That's not a scare tactic. That's just actually what they're going to do. They believe that everyone should pay their fair share. But what they mean by that is people who make more need to pay a lot more. And they don't care that might keep them from reinvesting. And they think that people who make less should pay nothing. And again, in their mind, they don't realize that that's going to create a whole class of citizens that don't have a stake in the America. They're not stakeholders. They're not, a part of the system. But that he believes in this, and I think it does go back to his parents and to being a community organizer, which frankly I think was the world. I think it was pretty honorable that he wanted to change society. I think he's got good goals. The problem is, I think the way he gets there is what's totally off. Fairness is a good goal, but redistribution of wealth is not the way to get to fairness. I think fairness means everyone should have an equal shot. I don't think he does. I think he thinks everyone should have an equal, instead of an equal shot, everyone's, frankly, life should be equal. and there's no exceptionalism whatsoever.
Logan, you get the final word.
I think Dr. Ben Carson said it best. The fairest tax system is set in the Bible. It's called a tithe. And Dr. Carson explained at the prayer breakfast last week he said that it doesn't matter whether you had a bumper crop or you had a drought. You give 10%. And if you had, the object was not to hurt somebody who had a bumper crop. It's 10%, and it comes from the Bible. It's proportional tax. Take all the deductions out, make it simple, make it so that everybody can fill out their own tax return. You don't have to go to H&R Block or your local accountant and have them fill out a tax return that none of us understands. Keep it simple and proportional, and we all have a stake in the system, and we're all paying the same rate.
Thank you both so much for joining us. I want to thank our earlier guest, John Scheimer. Take care, everyone. Logan, Ken.
Hello, everyone. This is Armstrong on the right side.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show,